Welcome to the Greater Returns Podcast, where we talk about nonprofit fundraising, analytics, and how to get better every day. Now, let's get started with the show.
Dennis Hoffman here. I'm the host of Greater Returns, a fundraising podcast, where I talk with nonprofit leaders about marketing, direct mail, and analytics. I have John Cochran with me from Rise 25. John has done thousands of interviews with successful entrepreneurs, investors, and CEOs. We flipped the script today, and he will be interviewing me.
All right, Dennis, thanks so much for having me. It's an honor to be here. And in this episode, we're going to be talking about the origin of the industry and expert caging and lockbox services, and how access to data and greater availability of data and many different tools around that has really allowed the industry to evolve, and it has a big impact on fundraising. But first, before we get into that, this episode is brought to you by Engage USA, and Engage USA provides expert caging and lockbox services to help organizations meet their unique fundraising needs, and their proprietary systems capture, verify, and balance data in real time, allowing them to provide clients with obsessively accurate data and deposits within 24 hours. State and national charities, advocacy organizations, and political candidates count on Engage USA to help their fundraising campaigns become more successful. So what are you waiting for? Visit engageusa.com, or you can also email info@engageusa.com to learn more. All right, so Dennis, take us back to the late 1990s. You are running an agency. You're raising money for nonprofit organizations. Data came not very frequently. There's no cloud-based software or anything like that at this point in time. You didn't have great access to the data, and you had kind of this pivotal moment, this turning point where you got some data for a client and you realized this needs to be solved. So take us back to that. What happened?
Absolutely. John, I owned an agency that worked with small nonprofit organizations, and we worked with a large national database company that's still around. Some of these people watching this podcast probably work with them. But I'd never seen the data. Data came on these big things called mag tapes. And there's a story about Richard Viguerie, who's a pioneer in this industry, holding a mag tape up to the light and trying to read it. He couldn't see anything. It was kind of like holding a CD up to the light. You can't read that. In 1999, the technology reached the point where I could open one of our files on my Macintosh computer. And I did. I opened it up. I don't know whether it was Excel or you said maybe Lotus 123. I don't know what program I used. But I opened it up and I looked at the data and I was mortified. We had, my analysis, and I didn't have the tools to do a good analysis, but I found 8.5% duplicates on that list. I found people whose names were obviously spelled wrong. I found errors in street names. One lady was on the list 11 times. And that was a list that she was getting that client's fundraising mailings that way. So I called the computer house we worked with and said, I can't believe this. You should look at this, and was alerting them to an issue that I thought would upset them as much as it upset me. I mean, they were professionals, right? Just like I was a professional.
Yeah.
I expected they would care about what they did. And the young woman we worked with said, Dennis, 8.5% isn't that bad. I mean, industry standard is 5%.
Was that incredibly frustrating for you? I mean, here you're trying to do your best for your clients. You're trying to help them to raise money. You're doing your best to squeeze out, little differences, impacts, which could have a big impact for these nonprofits. And to see that kind of massive differential, was it incredibly frustrating for you?
So John, fundraising is expensive, and we work really hard to make it less expensive. But the truth is, the profits from a fundraising campaign, the money that actually runs a nonprofit, is what's left over after the cost of fundraising. And when I looked at the fact that in industry standard, we were spending an extra that we were spending an extra 5% on wasted mailings. And more than that, you can guess the people who got 2 or 3 or 11 mailings also, in addition to wasted money in that mailing, were less likely to give to the first mailing they got. So the amount that it was costing my clients was ridiculous. And I decided that I could probably have a bigger impact on my clients' fundraising by fixing their data problems than I could by tweaking their fundraising packages, which is what I had spent most of my career until that point doing. And I decided to make a change. First, I tried to find another data house that would work with small nonprofits and do it well. And at that point, it was the late 90s. Technology was getting a lot better. And I was convinced I could find somebody, but my clients were small enough that they couldn't make the minimums at most agencies and most data houses. So I decided to start my own, and I ordered a class on CDs. And I would come in and I would sit and watch the CD and learn how to write some code. And I would write the code. I used FileMaker for our original database, and I slowly built a small data warehouse and brought my first client into it. And
what kind of impact did you start to see when you started to manage it in-house, so to speak, with this new business?
It was really kind of shocking. So we had no analytics. I was doing analytics in a more primitive way than I had, ever had before, because I was a programmer. I didn't know how to make a report. I didn't know how to do anything. But what I did know how to do is pay attention to detail and pay attention and make sure that the donors were well cared for, that we went in, that their addresses were right and their names were right, and that there were no duplicates. And what that meant is my clients saw an increase in response rate right away. The big issue I had is we were still working with outside lockboxes. The people who captured the data were still sending me bad data. And I was spending, at this point, I did it all by hand myself. And I was spending huge amounts of time cleaning their data. So if I correct your name once and it comes in wrong again, and I have to make that correction again before I merge the records.
Right.
And I decided I wanted to control the data capture.
You realized you had to kind of go upstream.
And that's how we got into the Lockbox business. And the Lockbox business for us has grown into something that I'm pretty proud of.
So you start, so Engage USA launches about 2000. You had 4 business partners initially. In 2005, you realized it was time to, you weren't full-time, but you decided to go full-time. So talk a little bit about what was the aha moment? Was it that technology had evolved at that point, that it was better? But what led to that decision to go full-time?
Sure. So in 2005, I sold my share of the agency to my employees and my business partner. And I came over to Engage full-time. My business partner, Kathleen Clem, was here at that point, and she is still my partner. And what happened is all the things that I believed about taking data seriously were working. And I looked at this business and I said, I found it a whole lot more exciting than the business that I'd been in for 15 years at that point.
Mm-hmm. And so talk a little about from that point going forward, 2005, what sorts of impacts you started to see for clients, especially as new tools came online and as, the internet started to evolve and there was access to greater amounts of data.
So when I came to Engage full-time, we had 40,000 square feet of paper storage. We had and rows and rows of people kind of like in a school opening mail. It was a time intensive, slow, painful business, and a lot of lockboxes are still like that. What we did over the years is adopt technology. The way it works now is we have high-speed scanners. We have high-speed extractors that open the mail, present it to an operator who drops it onto a scan bed, and it goes through a high-speed scanner. And then we use OCR to read the pieces that come in,
character recognition. Optical, yeah.
So OCR will read the client's data and look for two comparison points. So if we find your name is John, we're gonna make sure we find your name is John twice so that we know it's right. If we don't find that information twice, then we're gonna have it present to a person to key that information to verify it. But our systems verify people's information 2 times before they accept it. And what that means is we're processing our clients' data in real time. And because of that, we're able to verify it, make sure the data is accurate, and provide our clients with their data and their deposit within 24 hours.
And talk a little bit about, you've seen this industry evolve so dramatically, but talk a little bit about what kind of an impact that's had for clients being able to see their data within 24 hours now compared to where it was, even 10, 15 years ago.
Well, so I'm a fundraiser at heart, and one of the things that I talk about all the time is speed of sending thank yous to the donor and speed of asking the donor for another donation. Those things radically affect response, just like with any lead. If you were doing lead generation for your business, John, you know that the amount of time that passes between the time that you capture the lead and the time you reach out to them is the longer that passes, the worse it's going to do. Direct mail fundraising works the same way. And so when we have clients who come to us who say, well, it normally would take 14 days or 16 days for us between the time that we received the donation and the time that was updated to our database, that's radically lowering their chance of getting a second donation from that donor. So what our clients see overall is when they begin working with us, their conversion rate, the number of donors who become multi-donors and give to their organization again and again, goes up.
And so really then it becomes more of an advisory type of thing, taking the data and then turning it into actionable changes in practices for your clients. Talk a little bit more about any other ways in which you help the clients to make better decisions or to shift their focus in order to have more effective fundraising campaigns once they have that data in place and they have access to it quicker.
Sure. So we manage the data and do analytics for a lot of our clients, but a lot of them do it themselves too. There are amazing tools out there that allow them to do it, or they'll work with other data houses. The biggest difference of having accurate data means that that their analysis is right. If you have dirty data, doesn't matter how much analysis you do or how much money you spend on analysis, it's going to be wrong. And that's so our obsession with clean data has the biggest impact for clients, whether they work with us for analytics or work with somebody else.
That's great. Dennis, this has been great. Remind or tell everyone where they can go to learn more about you, learn more about Engage USA, connect with you. Where can people go?
Sure. Our website is engageusa.com. Or you can email info@engageusa.com. And I look forward to hearing from you.
Excellent. All right. Thanks so much, Dennis.
Thanks for listening to the Greater Returns podcast. We'll see you again next time, and be sure to click subscribe to get future episodes.